Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, May the 2nd and it's kind of a gray overcast day today. We had a little bit of sunshine about an hour ago and I think it's just going to get progressively grayer and potentially rain tonight. So we're filming now, quick, while it's, bearable. I do have my crib blanket put into use. Honestly, it's one of the best purchases I have made for my stitching life, these lovely little crib blankets. Anyway, is it wrong that I think I might want to buy a couple more? Anyway, never mind that. I hope everybody's had a good week and that you have found time to do some stitching and be creative. If you are a new viewer to my channel, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. I hope you enjoy what you see. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for spending some time with me and coming back, however frequently you do come back. With that, in a reversal of events, we're actually going to start off by doing the topic. As it is May the 2nd, April has come to an end. Dear Canadians, I hope that you have filed your taxes. For the Americans who don't know, April 30th is the deadline for filing your taxes in Canada. And unlike in the US where you can file for an extension, in Canada you need to file, if you owe money, you need to file by April 30th without incurring any penalties. If the government owes you a refund, you don't have to file ever and they're totally fine with that. But if you owe, April 30th is our magic deadline. If you're an American, technically your deadline was April 15th, but as far as I know, you have the ability to file for an extension to file, although I think, same thing, I think you need to make your payment by the 15th if you owe. But don't quote me, this is not advice on tax anything, so just, anyway, happy end of tax filing month? Anyway, with that, we are on to May, and let the mania begin, but that's not where we're going to start our journey. So April, as noted in the topic for this week, let's talk Anne Morison April wrap-up. Sorry, there's going to be a little bit of crinkling today. So for those of you who don't know who Anne Morison is, this is Anne Morison from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. This is an out-of-print chart. So again, your options to locate it are have someone loan it to you, sell it to you, buy it on eBay, stash unload, something like that. So this is mine. So this is a reproduction sampler. So this is how the model of the reproduction looks. But if you've been here before, you know that I am making some adjustments. So, I just realized I forgot to bring my clips, but we'll all survive. Alrighty. Actually, let's turn it this way. If I were really smart, I don't even think I've got a magnet here. Oh, needle minder, that might help some. It will help on the side. There we go. Alrighty, so I will also preface this saying there was not a lot of stitching time this week. There were quite a few family things that needed to be dealt with this week. So not my best stitching week, but the family things needed to be handled. So this simply, so it's even off of the scroll rods. So this is where I'm ending Anne Morison. I think I had talked last week that there was a possibility that I was maybe going to start working on the numbers down here, and that did not happen for very good reasons. I'm very glad I didn't try to scoot ahead and work on those, because the color that I'm going to use for the numbers is going to change as a result of, as I said, a couple things were working out, blah, 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 colors, people needed to provide me some information, etc., etc. I've now got that information. I'm sorting it out. I'm quite sure that the number, the numerical band in the sampler, the color that I had originally intended to use is not going to be what ends up being used. Anyway, So the stitching that I did get accomplished is I finally finished this band here. So I'm going to hold that up close so you can see what that looks like. There we go. So I ended up using a slightly variegated silk thread. So I'm okay with this. Again, I think I had mentioned that I was having a really hard time figuring out what to use for this particular thing. So I'm okay with this decision. I think it's fine. I'm not going to try to find another replacement. Hence, I think if I were still contemplating, you would have seen, you know, a couple of them filled in and then nothing else. But they are all filled in, so as far as I'm concerned, that band is now complete. I'm happy with how that turned out. And for those of you who are interested, here's my poor little wad of, I truly wadded it up. So this is actually from that Silks for You bits bag that I showed whenever it is that I was talking about Silks for You quite a few weeks ago. So, you know, again, as I was diving through things and looking through things, I hauled this out and I went, I think this may actually work. So this is, Silks for You does their silks with numbers. There are no names. But because this is from a bits bag, this is actually, so the things that go into bits bags are either leftover bits from colors that are in their product line, or silks that have been misdyed, where they did their thing and it didn't quite come out as expected. And so I'm calling this a misdye, simply because that there are some very, there's a couple of spots where it looks like wrong dyes have landed on it. So there's a couple of spots where there's actually red, and there's a couple of spots where it's a very bright yellow. So I'm calling this a misdye, which is why it's this big little waddy thing, because I ended up cutting around. I fussy cut this to make sure that I could get the variegation that I ended up with, and, you know, more or less the color path that I wanted. But this ended up being the answer to this was the solution to my problem about how I was going to fill that in. I am leaving this with this particular project. So I'm just trying not to sneeze. Leave this with my project. I don't think I'm going to end up trying to sub this into anything else. And even though Anne Morison is going away until 2022, as we all know from last week's plan, I have a 5-year plan. I am expecting that Anne is going to come out again to play in 2022. I don't think I'm going to necessarily use this for one of the borders in between, but you just never know. So this particular silk is coming to live in the bag with the other Anne Morison things. And again, so this was effectively the color, you know, my adjustment to the color palette. But again, some of these colors are going to go away. So right now I'm expecting these two colors for sure to go away. This one's a little bit, check back later. So those are technically, as far as I know, going away to be replaced by other ones. And I'm actually going to add a couple more colors. I'm going to add a few more colors in here for the bottom half. So the other nice thing about putting Anne away until next year is, again, I've come up with this plan. It's my piece. I'm going to do what I want. I do need to do some adjusting down here, and then based on the colors that I'm bringing in these bands here with the multicolored alphabets and how it's going to tie in down here, I really do think that my best option is to kind of map that out. So before I actually get started, because yeah, there's a lot to do in here, and I think I just need to map it out. But now that I have my colors decided and I know what the colors that I'm bringing in, I can now start the behind the scenes planning on what this is actually going to look like, so that the next time I go to stitch, and again, I now know what the color for this row is going to be. I think I'm, you know, these in between bands, these very simple borders in here between the bands, those may really come in last. So I can just see how this is shaping up in real life once I get to stitching it. So that's my Anne Morison. I think if you've watched me for any amount of time, I don't tend to be awfully samplery. But this has been fun. I've enjoyed working on it. I've enjoyed working on it my way. I think if I had done it truly as the reproduction, I would not, it would be okay. But again, I think the reason why I've always, you know, I'd always from the beginning decided I was going to change the colors is these colors are nice. These colors are fine. They're not necessarily my colors. You know, again, it's not that I'm not using red, I'm just using a different tone of red. It's not that I'm not using green, I'm just using a different tone of green, which are more reflective of my color palette. So anyway, again, for the month of April, knowing that I was working on something else as well, I am happy with my progress. You know, for months, there are people who stitch way faster than I am, and I'm totally fine with that. I do this for my personal enjoyment. This is my crafting. This is my hobby. I go at my own pace. I am happy with my progress this month, given everything that's been going on in my personal life and my other stitching and the other things that I have to do in my life. I know I feel like I'm going on and on, like I have to justify, and I don't. But anyway, so this is where Anne Morison is wrapping up her April. She is going away until 2022. But for those of you who have really enjoyed seeing this version of Anne, don't you worry. She is very much in the plan for 2022. So stay tuned, she'll be coming out. And as I say, hopefully by the time she comes out, my revamped plan for what she's going to look like will have all been worked out, and we'll all get to see what that looks like. All right. Hard to believe. 12 minutes in and we're already through the topic. Yeah, not this, so clearly not this week, not next week, but the following week after that one. I think that's the week where I'm going to be doing stitching tools, so that one could be movie length. Just a word of warning to those of you who, anywho, again, you never have to watch any given video all in one slot. All right, so that is Anne. Here is the bag that she is going into storage for until 2022. All right, next up, everybody's favorite, the Never-Ending Nativity, the Bethlehem Star. I was going to actually pay more attention to the comments. I think Charlotte had a question. Is this the final panel? This is the final panel, Charlotte. If I could just get the center panel done, if I could finish these angels and do the beads, the Never-Ending Nativity will come to an end. So I have a plan for how I think I'm going to work on this. We're going to talk about that next week. So that's the Never-Ending Nativity. Over here looking at my things. Here it comes. So I think you can tell, so not a ton of stitching has been accomplished this week, but that was known. I'm okay with that. So my plan actually for tonight is to finish up, there's a little bit of DMC left to go in here. I think there's maybe a little bit left of this one color and then some white. And then after that, all that's left in this wing is Krynic. So it's going to be more Krynic in my life. So hopefully over the course of this week, all that DMC will be completed, and my real goal is to make sure that I've got the wing done, and hopefully, again, these little spots down here in the angel, each of those is a stitch of Krynic of a couple of different colors. So hopefully by the time you tune in next week, this wing will be complete. And as I'm working on this wing, I'm going to hopefully finish off this wing. So same thing, there's a little bit of white DMC left to go over here. Again, little, like, I'm calling it 30, 35 stitches. It's a little bit anyway, whatever. So when I finish the white on here, I'm going to come over here and do this. And assuming that the week goes okay, maybe 2 wings will be complete. And then what will happen after that comes that lovely, we're going to do all the back stitching, because there's a lot of back stitching in both of these parts. And then we're going to move down to the bottom third. And then I think that's when I'm going to start to feel like I'm in the home stretch. So again, not a ton of progress on this week, but I'm okay with that. Again, a lot of family things that needed to be taken care of this week. So anyway, progress. As I say every week, every stitch that gets into this is a stitch closer to the finish, and that's important. So there we go. That is the never-ending nativity. And then we're going to get to this. You're going to be in suspense. I'm not going to tell you what I'm working on, the name of the project. I'm going to show you the project. So we are now into May. Let the mania begin. Some people are doing Mayhem Mania, which, like, that sounds fun too. Again, I have my own plan. We're going to talk a little bit more about exactly how that's going to progress over the course of the month. But we're going to talk about that next week. But I did dutifully start it last night. It's just going to knock your socks off, I can tell. Isn't that exciting? I know. Big, giant, white blob. Anyway, it's very hard to tell when you see it from back here, and for anybody who's worried that this isn't going to work out, there's actually another color that goes outside of this, which is why I am not concerned about this in the slightest. So for any of you who are planning on pretending to guess at this, and if you spend more than about 97 seconds, please don't spend that much time on it. Here are your hints. So I am doing my project on a 32 count Lugana from Picture This Plus called Ariel. So for any of you that are wondering about what Picture This Plus Ariel looks like on Lugana, this is what it looks like on 32 count. 32 count Lugana is in Ariel is not the called for color. The original chart was, the model was stitched on cream. So even then, right? So there still wouldn't have been a huge difference between the cream and this anyway. So we're all fine. This is going to be just fine. I will tell you that the copyright of this chart is 1999. So yet again, one of my over 20-year-old charts is finally experiencing a start. And again, that was part of the fun of my 2021 plan, is that I just want to start the things that I've had in my stash that I want to stitch. 2021 is the year of we're starting something new every month, just so I can say that they're started and I'm working on them. So this is, again, a 20-year-old chart from my stash that even today, I look at that chart and I go, I think I want to finish it. And the first step in getting close to a finish is, oh, wait for it, starting it. So it has been started. I will be working on this for the entire month of May. Just with all of the same as my other starts. This will only be, as far as I know at this point, plans are always subject to change, but right now I will only be working on this in the month of May. My May plan, this is not the only thing I'm going to be working on in the month of May, besides the never-ending nativity, but we'll talk about that next week. But here is my start. I'm happy with my start. I am planning on working this again on this tonight as well. So well, it is Sunday, so I have time to stitch on both the Never Ending Nativity and my Mania New Start piece. I will also tell you that the designer of this chart, so far this year, I've tried to be alliterative in my months. So we had Just Nan January, Frida's Fancy Stitching February, My Big Toe March, and Morison April. And May also has an alliterative name. I will also tell you that it is not a repeat designer from any of the previous months. Okay, there's all your clues. That's not true. I had one other clue. I know where it is. Here is my color palette for this project. I like these colors. Because, you know, I'm a glutton for punishment. Here are my metallics. I know. Don't worry. I don't expect that I'm going to hit the metallics this year, so the whining about that is not going to occur in 2021. Just about them already. I will also tell you that according to the chart, this particular chart requires 3 skeins of white DMC. And I'm not doing a good job of this. Sorry, crinkle, 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 because it's using my fancy Ziploc baggie storage system. There are Mill Hill beads and treasures required for this chart, of which I have them all. They're sitting in this glorious storage baggie, brought to you by Ziploc. Not sponsored in any way. Here's my Ziploc baggie of the beads to go with this project. My colors. There we go. There's your big hint. Here everything goes into my lovely, illustrious storage bag for this project. Complete with its working copy of the chart. There we go. So that is the stitching that I have accomplished this week. Again, I'm hoping for a reasonably decent stitching week coming up this week. As far as I know, again, if there's a couple of family things that pop up, those will take precedence. But I think it's going to be a decent stitching week, I think. And with that, I'm going to show you some of my Stashquisitions. Again, I'm doling them out a little bit every week just to, you know, because. So this is, so I talked about the fact that my Picture This Plus fabric that I had ordered back in September had finally arrived at my, at Traditional Stitches. It was ready for me to pick up, so I've managed to pick that up, bring it home. And here it is. So here is my piece. So this is 32 count Whimsey from Picture This Plus on Lugana. Again, so the dyes take differently between linen and Lugana. So this is what Whimsey looks like on 32 count Lugana. You can also see some differences between, even within the count. So 28 versus 32 versus 36 linen, 28 versus 32 Lugana may also take the dyes slightly differently. So this is, and again, hand dyed, which means every piece is going to look different. But at least conceptually this will, if anybody wanted to know what Whimsey on Lugana looked like, that's what it looks like. Now, I ordered this because I wanted it. I think it's because I'd seen a piece of it that I think was going off with somebody else, and you know, then I wanted it, so I ordered it. It's now going into stash. At this point, Again, one of the things I did last night, you know, for fun, as one does, I was looking at my 5-year stitching plan, particularly at the 2022 stitching. I don't think this is coming out to play in 2022, but it may have a place to play in the 5-year stitching plan, just not necessarily in 2022. So that is 32 count Whimsey from Picture This Plus, 32 count Lugana. Again, Lugana and linens take the dyes quite differently, so I try to be very careful about saying that it's a Lugana, because the linen will look different. This is 32 count, and again, you can see the hint of it, because the metallics don't really show up very well on camera. So this is 32 count Crystal Pewter. Sorry, I'm just having that moment where I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was looking at a chart this morning and I was like, do I have any pewter in my stash? But it's a different brand of pewter. Now I have to go back and think. But now I go like, now that I've said this out loud, well, I've pictured this. So again, this is Picture This Plus. Opal Crystal Pewter is what they call it. So that's what gives you, it's done on the opalescent fabric. So I know, so I actually did get a big piece of this. There's a particular chart that I'm, series of charts that I'm planning on putting on this. I will still need to do a floss toss. Again, I'm still happy I've got this, because even if it doesn't quite work out, like I say, I've just had that moment going, ooh, I might do really well on this other chart. All right. I honestly, this morning, when I was looking at this other chart, which currently does not factor into the 5-year plan, but it doesn't mean that the plan can't be changed, I honestly was sitting there going like, man, I could spend an entire day just playing with the stash, and that would just be like a super fun day. Now, I'm not planning on doing that today, because I've got to do really exciting things like, you know, laundry, vacuuming, you know, all the fun stuff. Anyway. And then this one is 32 count Colonial Blue from Zweigart. So this is just a solid. So this, in terms of colors, if you've got a this is approximately DMC 930. So DMC 930 is one of my favorite blues. And so when I saw this, so this was incremental. This was not part of the prepaid plan. This is incremental. And the answer is, I saw it, I liked it, it came home. Now, again, I've got a little bit of a plan for this. Stay tuned. Not this year, not this year, because 2021 is already planned out. Okay. Those are the acquisitions that I am planning on showing this week. There's still a few more that are not quite as exciting, but again, I'm drabbling them out over, you know, a couple of weeks for fun. Sorry, I had a whole, drabbling. Again, so just in terms of supply chain, Picture This Plus, turnaround time for them from the time a new order is placed by a store, I'm still saying is 8 months. Again, it's not to say that stores aren't getting supplies in, but I do know that for Traditional Stitches, which is where I got my Picture This Plus, I know that they're placing orders regularly, but again, like, the store owner Janice, poor Janice, like, she's having to figure out like now what she thinks she might need 8 months from now. And what happens a lot of the time is when she places the order, and you know, she's, you know, people like me put in an order for, you know, Whimsey, great, you know, so she buys more of that, you know, and she buys, you know, for things that she thinks people will order, but usually by the time the order shows up, people have placed online orders, etc., etc. So some people may not have to wait the full 8 months. They may be able to get theirs in, it could be, don't quote me, like you could fluke out and get it within 4 weeks. It could be, 2 months, 3 months. It could be anything between. They might actually have some leftover from a shipment that came in that is available for someone, to you might have to wait the full 8 months for it to show up, and everything in between. So anyway, there you go. I was looking on the Kreinik site. So remember what I was talking about? Kreinik is backlogged, and I wasn't exactly sure. So they're actually, again, if you're looking for an update on Kreinik, you can go to their website. So they've got a little blurb on there that they are experiencing substantial delays for a number of reasons, including social distancing at the workplace. They've had staff who've had COVID, so they've had to shut down for X amount of time. They're located in California, so they've got all of the restrictions around California lockdowns, which have, been in existence for longer than lots of other parts of North America. And then they opened up, and then they got locked back down again. And then I think they've opened anyway. So all of that stuff is going on. So, they're a business in California, and they are abiding by the state requirements for what they have to do. So again, they are experiencing backlogs, and they're struggling to supply the orders, and they're doing the best they can under the operating circumstances that they're having to deal with. And again, and don't get me wrong, we all want what we want when we want it, and Amazon has ruined us for the patient's ability. But when it comes to the stitching supplies, we do need to practice the art of patience, particularly with our LNSs. Our LNSs are online stores. All the suppliers are the distributors. Everybody's doing the best that they can. I was actually reading one of my weekend newsletters that I get from one of the stores down in the U.S. where they were explicitly going, yeah, we have a shipment coming from X designer, which is coming from Italy, which is it was expected to be delivered, I'm making this up, don't quote me, April the 3rd. It still has not shown up. We're trying to track it. We're so if you're waiting for your order, here's so it was interesting. They had a full blurb at the beginning of their newsletter saying, here are the designers that we are awaiting shipments from, kind of we were hoping to have received them by now, but they still have not arrived. Some of them, again, which we talked about before, some of them are coming from Europe, some of them are coming from Australia. They were commenting that, Needlework Expo was back at the beginning of March, but some of the shipments from the designers have not arrived yet. And, if you've placed an order for your Needlework Expo stuff and it hasn't arrived, please honor your order, because I am 100% sure that every store that you placed your order with placed their order as part of the Needlework Expo, and it's just a question of getting the stuff and shipping is weird. And like I say, Amazon has ruined us, although I buy stuff from Amazon, and anyway, I think it's ruined our patience level. You order it, you should 2-day shipping, right? Anyway, but that's not what our small businesses, that again, like me, generally when I'm buying it from a small business, and their shipping times are not Amazon shipping times. And as I say, it's not like I don't have anything else to work on. Anyway, so there's that nice little detour there. And so my last thing, I actually have a free chart for you to show this week. So this free chart came out in 2020. I think it came out actually during the time of when the Be Well free charts were coming out at the beginning of lockdown for a lot of us. But I totally missed this. I didn't, as far as I can recall, I never saw this. I didn't see anything about it. I've stumbled across it through something else, and I went, how in the world did I miss this? So I've downloaded it. And so now I'm going to show it to you in case you missed it as well. The link to how to get this. And again, so I found this through a shop. So you go to the shop, you go onto the freebies. I think you actually have to put it in your cart. I don't know that you need to check out, but regardless, it's free. I don't think you have to put payment information in or anything. And I was just telling, I was like, I need to pay attention because I'm never going to be able to read this backwards. So this is from the Heart's Ease Exemplar Works, and it is called the Beelieve Sewing Set. So you get the charts for all of these things. So this is a little fabric ruler. This is a scissor fob. You get the chart for this. You get the thing to make the little strawberry. This is a scissor case. And this is a little pillow. So all of that is part of this. Man, it really wipes up my face anyway. All of that comes as part of this free chart. And the interesting thing that I really like is they've actually done a layout page. Now, they did this on 36 count linen, and so this layout is also for if you are stitching it on 36 count linen. But this is the layout for how to cut out, so it would, on 36 count linen, you would need a fat quarter, so 18 by 27, and you can do all of everything. Everything will fit on that one piece of fabric, and this is the layout, how to get it on there. Now, I think these are miscellaneous, so I'm not exactly sure what there's. I didn't really pay that much attention. There's a lot of instructions in this thing. It's a multi-page download, but I really did appreciate that they actually provided the layout. So if you're saying like, how do I fit this onto one piece of fabric? You know, how, you know, to get all of this, blah, blah, blah. How much do I need? What does it need to look like? I appreciate the fact that for 36 count, again, this is what they did, and on they give you this layout. If you were to change it, of course, to take it down to 32 or 28, I think you'd have to rework this layout, but I still think you've got a shot at being able to get it onto a fat quarter, but don't quote me because I have not done the math. But I think, you know, if you took this out, that somehow you could rearrange these pieces and it could still fit. I still think it could fit onto a fat quarter, but please do not quote me. Do not come back and say, Judy told me that this is going to fit on a fat quarter if it's 28 or 32 or anything other than 36. But, so again, I just really appreciated that they put the layout so that you would know what to do. And I think the instructions are pretty clear about how much fabric you need to leave between these pieces and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I was like, yeah, I liked it. And as far as I can remember, I don't remember seeing this at all. So the link to this is going to be in the show notes below. So you can, the link is going to be to the store's freebie page where I found it. So there will be other freebie charts on there. Again, so this is me, right? Blah, 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 anything freebie, click, see what's there. Some of the things I already had, I downloaded them from different sources and all that kind of stuff. So some of them were not new to me. This is the one where I went, I like that, and I have not seen this before. How did I miss this? So quickly downloaded. Again, a reminder for anybody who's part of the Victoria Sampler Facebook group, the first part of the May freebie chart is available. Again, I was on Facebook last night. I was looking, it's like there's a couple of ladies where their stuff is fantastic. I love what they're doing with this. I think it's great, and they're keeping up to date with it, which is awesome. Because by the time we get to December and they've got all of the free charts out there and available, I will have seen what all these other people will have done, and then, you know, I can start thinking about how I would do it. This is why I cannot participate in a mystery from the get-go, because I do tend to change the colors all sorts of other things, change the fabric, change the colors, change the, anyway, whatever. So I need to see the whole thing before I can start to make those changes. Some people are great. They'll just go, I'm going to wing it and I'm going to do it as it comes along and it'll all work out in the end, and they do a great job and that's for them, and I think that's awesome. I need to see the whole thing so I can figure out my plan. So the part 1 of May is out in the Victoria Sampler Facebook group for their monthly, free monthly stitch along. I've talked to you before about Tempting Tangles. They have stitch alongs. I've shown you the Quakers in Scotland. They've done Quakers in England, Quakers in Holland, Quakers in Japan. I've gotten all of them. They are now they're doing Quakers in Italy. So the first couple of parts have come out. I'm having that debate with myself. So before we hit the end of June, I think there's a high likelihood I'm going to end up buying that anyway, because, you know, I've fallen off the stitch from Stash, so you might as well pick up the $7.50 chart now. Again, if you like those ones, I highly recommend that you buy them as part of these stitch alongs. So for example, Quakers in Scotland, I'm quite sure when I bought that as part of the stitch along, it was $7.50. It has been released as so when you buy it as a stitch along, you get a part every 2 weeks, right? So it comes out in 16 parts. You can now buy it as a complete chart, but the cost now, I think I checked, this is a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at it. I think the chart now is $18. So again, if there's a stitch along and I like the stitch along, I buy it as the stitch along, because I will take the $10 savings. Hey, a $10 savings per chart adds up. And that's what I can use to buy floss and fabric and cry neck. Anyway, so that is out there. I will put a link to the Tempting Tangles page that shows their stitch alongs, so you can just have a look and see what's currently running. But I was like, yeah, it's popped up. And I'm like, ooh, Quakers in Italy. I think I have all of the other ones. So, I mean, there's a part of me that says, how could you not have the complete set? But I'm still maybe going to wait a few more weeks, let a couple more of the sections come out before I commit my $7.50 into that. But just to let you know. And with that, I hope everybody has a great week. We're going to end us off on a sunny note. I don't know if the lighting changes. I'll have to look at that again, but I hope everybody has a great week. I hope you are staying safe, stay healthy, and I hope everybody is finding some time to do some stitching and exercise their creative skills. And with that, I look forward to seeing you next week. If you have any comments, questions, topics you would like me to address, I absolutely welcome all the comments and suggestions down below. I will respond. Like I say, I'm not sure. I don't think I had any other questions, but I'll have to go back and check. If you had a question this week and I have not addressed it, I'm so sorry. Check back next week, because I will do it for sure next week. But I appreciate, makes me feel like we're having a visit. So I hope everybody has a good week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.